Hello, YouTubers! Welcome to Big Buddha is Watching. I'm Big Buddha, and finally got it out of my system. 6 weeks, something like 14 videos devoted entirely to Red Dwarf, series by series reviews, not all bunked together like I normally would in one retrospective. Got some all right viewing figures, well, all right for me. I'm talking, 45, 50 views for these as opposed to the usual 5 or 10 that I was getting. So I apologise now for the loyal subscribers, if you're still with me, who weren't at all interested in Red Dwarf, in British TV sci-fi comedy. I've now got that on my system, and today I'm going to be looking at another TV sci-fi comedy. I'm afraid. You can blame my friend Andy for this one. He's a new subscriber, and this was his request. So this is a request review that I'm fulfilling. As I said before, if you want a free review, every subscriber gets one. If you subscribe to the channel, just request away, and I'll eventually get round to doing a review for you, I'm sure. If you're not subscribe to the channel, subscribe, and then request. I only do one for subscribers, I'm afraid. But he said, sort of in the midst of the Red Dwarf reviews, "Oh, do you remember a series called Hyperdrive? It was on about 10 years ago," and I do remember it. I watched it when it was on. About 10 years ago, and 2006, 2007. I think I've watched pretty much all of the first series. When I revisited it this time around, I could remember, the only one I could remember really from the second series was, I remember there was one set in a pub, and I couldn't quite remember why it was set in a pub. I thought maybe it was some sort of virtual reality, artificial reality thing, which makes me think I didn't even see the whole episode. But that was pretty much the only thing I could remember from the second series. And watching it this time around, nothing else sort of leapt out at me when I did watch it. So I assumed that that was probably the only episode of the second series I did catch around. But I remember when it was originally on. I remember liking it and enjoying it, but not loving it in the way that I hoped I would. I thought I would because two of my favourite things in the world are Hitchhiker's Guide and Red Dwarf, and Hitchhikers I will review one day. And indeed there's a Hitchhiker's connection in this, because both series 1 and 2 both feature guest appearances from the character actor Geoffrey McGivern, who played Ford Prefect in the radio version of Hitchhikers, but not the TV version. So there is a connection there. So I remember going into this, that when it was originally broadcast, thinking that I'd like it, or I'd fall in love with it a lot more. But like I say, I watched it when it was originally on, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed Nick Frost and Kevin Eldon was in it, and some of the other supporting characters. But I've never felt a great need to go back and revisit it since. So it never grabbed me in the way that I thought it would. But thanks for Andy for reminding me of it, actually. And I thought, well, as he requested the review, he was interested to see my thoughts on it. It seemed like a good excuse to go back and revisit it. So I purchased the DVD, second-hand DVD off Amazon. This is the complete box set. You can tell it's an old DVD because one of them doesn't quite stay in its housing still. And so I spent the past few days just watching it. I mean, so they only did the two series, like I say, 2 of 6, so 12 episodes altogether. The DVD package has commentaries on every episode and a bonus disc, which I think was just the bonus disc for the first season, but there's no bonus disc for the second season. I think by then the second season, the BBC were kind of losing confidence in it a little, so they didn't sort of go behind the marketing as much the second time around, and indeed didn't recommission it for a third season. So, but there you go. It's when you're dealing with science fiction, it really doesn't matter how successful it is initially. Science fiction seems to have this great get out pass, which is that which is cult fandom. If something doesn't initially chime with the general public, like a lot of science fiction does, contrary to popular belief, there are. I mean, some of the most successful films of all time are science fiction films. Star Wars, Avatar, what have you. But science fiction it's almost a genre that can have a second life, because if there is an unsuccessful science fiction product, it almost always develops a rabid fan base. So the three people that saw it initially, it will be their favourite thing. So science fiction is usually a safe bet for the long run, for the longevity of a franchise or a product, beyond a lot of other genres, really, where you get much more examples that are forgotten, because science fiction is so interpretive. You can deal with some very heady themes in science fiction. You can deal with a lot of weighty issues, and so a lot of science fiction can be even a silly program like Hyperdrive. It can be endlessly reinterpreted and talked about in videos like this. So let's crack on and talk about Hyperdrive. So the basic setup is it's set on a spaceship called the HMS Camden Lock, and their protocol is to, as it says at the start of every episode, is to look after the British interests in space in an ever-changing galaxy. The theme tune to Series 1 is the tune... I don't know officially what it's called. I only know it is the Hitler's Only Got One Ball tune. That one. In Series 2, they have a much more sci-fi sort of Buck Rogers sort of theme tune. I guess the initial premise is it's sort of in the second wave of the British Empire. It's a British space fleet, which is something that hasn't really been addressed. We've seen American space fleets all over television, but a British space fleet has never really been sort of the centre of a programme. So it would be, and perfect. Of course, it was going to be a comedy if you put Brits in space. All the sci-fi techie side of it juxtaposed with the very British attitudes of tea at 10 o'clock and biscuits in a meeting and all this, and all the bureaucracy and the sort of class warfare and the dynamics of the different archetypes of the characters. That was the real focus of the series. That was really the basic setup, and the focus. The plots were really, they were kind of incidental, but kind of sort of, they were based around very British ideas and British themes and British archetypes. There's a parody of Ellen MacArthur in one episode, and well, yeah. Let's go for the episodes one by one. Well, first of all, I'll just briefly go through the characters because it really focuses on six main characters. Nick Frost, he plays Space Commander Michael Henderson. He's the captain of the HMS Camden Lock. Kevin Eldon is First Officer York. He's a sort of sinister type, yeah, authoritative type. He sort of you kind of get the impression that he would really relish in a sort of more fascistic society. It was just bad luck on his part that he happened to be born in liberal Britain. Miranda Hart is diplomatic officer Chloe Teal. I really loved Miranda Hart's take on the character in this. In fact, it's kind of made me fall in love with Miranda Hart. I think she's a really fine comic talent. Her timing's excellent. She has her character quirk in this is that she's in love with Henderson, and there's some of the best scenes in this show are sort of her unrequited love for Henderson. But yeah, I've really grown to like Miranda Hart, and I think I'm going to go back and check out her sitcom actually, which I've never seen. But watching this has made me want to seek out more of her stuff. Stephen Evans is Navigator David Vine. He's he's the one who nothing ever goes right for him really. Dan Antopolsky is Technocrat Officer Carl Jeffers. He's kind of a sort of hippie, slacker, layabout type, and the other mainstay of the cast is really Petra Massey, who is kind of a performance artist really. She has a background. She was in Cirque du Soleil. She plays Sandstrom, who's it's really the most imaginative character in the show. The ship doesn't have a main central computer, but they have this character called Sandstrom, who's an enhanced human. I think it's sort of alluded to that she was human at one point, and she sort of signed up for this thing, not really realizing what it was, just to pay off her student debts. But she's got this sort of metal skull cap on, and she really she's in this sort of space where she navigates the ship, and obviously it's great that they've got someone who from a sort of physical performance background to play this part. She is very good at the doing the sort of little bits of business throughout the series to guide the ship, and a lot of physical movement on her part. She's also like a lot older than you think she is. She looks like a woman in her 20s when she's in all her makeup, but she's like, she was about, I think, in her 40s when she did this. But there you go. That's by the by. So let's have a look at the. Just go for the episodes. So. Series 1, Episode 1 is A Gift from the Glish. This was really just a very flimsy plot, really, just to establish the characters, really, and some of the comedy. There's some good laughs in this. The first big belly laugh in this is when the Glish actually turn up, who are this alien race, and their main form of greeting apparently is rubbing the genitals on the head of the captain. That got a laugh out of me. Hello Kwepu is episode 2. This is possibly my favourite episode of the lot, actually. This is the one with Jeffrey McGivern in playing. I guess it was like just a parody of sort of OTT alien supreme beings, but funny because it's done on a BBC budget, so the sets aren't quite as impressive as they want to be, and the costumes as well are kind of made out of latex, so they kind of wobble. But Jeffrey McGivern, that really, he really commits to the role. It's no surprise actually that they brought him back for series 2 because he plays a lunatic imperial overlord very well. There's some really funny bits with his death ray in this episode where he sets it on someone. He says, "I will now disintegrate him in 3 days, and then when it's had a week to recharge, I shall turn the death ray on you." Yeah, so hello Kwepu. I think that's probably my favourite. Weekend off. This is a. I'm just looking through these episodes now. I'm struggling to remember what the plots were. I think Weekend Off was just about the crew having a weekend off and enjoying themselves. Obviously, episode 4 is called Asteroid. Yeah, I'm struggling to remember what actually happened in that one. Other than that, I think it ended with them blowing up an asteroid, and there was a lot of hierarchical stuff of them defying the orders of their fleet command, played by the great Patterson Joseph, who is a fine comic actor and a fine actor himself. He's in Neverwhere, and he should have been the first Black Doctor Who, if you ask me. Episode 5 is Claire. This is a really good episode as well. It's this is the one where they kind of do a takeoff of Ellen MacArthur. They get Sally Phillips. I watched the whole episode thinking it was Julia Davis, and then not realising until the end when I saw the credits, oh no, hang on, it wasn't Julia Davis, it was Sally Phillips, who's probably best remembered for Smack the Pony and the first series of I'm Alan Partridge. But she plays an Ellen MacArthur type, but she's basically a one-woman space mission, and it's driven slightly batty, and she ends up taking the crew hostage. And episode 6 is called Assessment, and I can't quite remember what happened in that one. So you kind of seen the problem here. It's only a sort of a 50% successful series because out of the 3 episodes, well, I can only really remember the plots of 2. There's no. Hang on. Is there a list of episodes? All right, list of episodes. Sorry about this. I just need to jog my memory. No, there's no actual descriptions of the episodes. Oh, that's terrible. Okay, well, never mind. Let's go into Series 2. Series 2, Episode 1 is The Green Javelins. This one, it does stick out in the memory a lot more. There's a lot of memorable moments in this. Stephen Mangum, fine sort of posh comic actor, best known for Green Wing, and he's in the second series of I'm Alan Partridge as well. He's Dan. I believe he played Adrian Mole in one of the later series as well. But he's a pilot in the Green Javelins, which is again, this is the sort of the writers latching onto very British things. Really, it's the Red Arrows essentially in space. Episode 8 is called Artifacts. What was that one? This is embarrassing. I can't remember what happened in Artifact. Episode 3 was Admiral's Daughter. Now, funny enough, I do remember what happened in this one, even though I was only half watching it. It was the Admiral's Daughter. They sort of run away to join a hippie commune, and HMS Camden Lock have to go and rescue her. And she runs amok on the ship, and it's basically liberal values coming into juxtaposition with the more sort of right-wing values of the crew of the Camden Lock. Episode 4 is Harvest. No, can't really recall what happened in that one. Episode 5. Now, Dreamgate. This was the one I watched originally when it was originally on, and yeah, this was. It wasn't artificial reality. It's they basically get their hands on a knob that can take you into the dream. So you go into the so Henderson and Locke go into the dreams of Teal, and it's all horses and stable boys. They go into the dream of Jeffers, and it's a very weird dream where he's a sort of afro-wearing hippie dishing out toast for everyone with a sort of funk soundtrack behind him. And then they go into the dream of Vine, and get stuck there. And his dream is he's a pub land. It's the same dream every time that he has. He's a pub landlord. His wife looks like a humanized version of Sandstrom, and then they end up getting stuck there. Locke and Henderson, and I get this is really the episode where there's just one very small moment in this that where I really thought, okay, the writing on the wall was really there. In this moment, it's when they get to the pub, and they find Vine behind the counter of the pub, and then his wife comes out and she looks like Sandstrom, and Henderson says, she looks like Sandstrom. And then they just do this very, very brief flashback of Sandstrom on the ship to remind the viewers who Sandstrom is. And I thought, yeah, when you get 11 episodes, 2 series in to a series, and you're having to remind the audience who one of the central characters is, the indications there that it's probably not chiming with the general public in the way you wished the series would. It would be like Series 2, Episode 5 of Red Dwarf, Queeg. It would be like saying, okay, we're going to turn off Holly, and then having a quick flash of Holly to remind the audience who Holly is. You really shouldn't have to remind the audience who one of your central characters is at this point. So it's not like the characters are poorly defined. It's just, I don't know, something was missing there in the mix to really make these really memorable sitcom characters that they were obviously meant to be. And episode 6 is Convoy. I can't remember what happened in Convoy. That is quite amazing. I didn't think that would happen. But out of the 12 episodes, even though I spent all week watching them, I can't remember 6 of them. So, but there you go. I mean, that just says it all about the series. It's a partially successful series. It was only really 50% what it was meant to be. I mentioned Red Dwarf there. You might think this is an unfair comparison to make, because it was obviously trying to be its own thing. But if you make a ship-based science fiction sitcom, of course it's going to get compared to Red Dwarf, and it has been ever since it was initially broadcast. It's through me doing my Red Dwarf reviews which is the reason why I'm looking at it now. Really, what are you doing? So what was best about the series? The character interactions are really the best thing about it. Especially I did genuinely enjoy the interplay between Teal and Henderson. The relationship with, Kevin Eldon is one of the funniest character actors. I've mentioned him before, and I'll mention him again. He's one of the most underrated figures in British comedy of the past 30 years. He really is. I think they were going for a sort of Dad's Army in space feel for this series. I don't know if that ever really came across. Knowing what the writers were initially going for. It does make me appreciate the show much more. But I think they really need to play up the much more the fact that this is a series about Britain and about being British. I think that's it was sort of lost in the mix. Where I think people just saw it as another science fiction show. And the plots really aren't as strong as Red Dwarf. They don't quite have the imagination. Some do, like the dream orb thing, but a lot are really just sort of Planet of the Week, Alien Species of the Week. Shows like a lot of science fiction are. They haven't quite got the imagination of really good sci-fi shows like Red Dwarf or Next Generation. I'm gonna kill my cat again. There are some. This series was written by Kevin Cecil and Andy Riley, who are probably most famous for co-writing series 2 and 3 of Black Books with Dylan Moran after. What's he called? Graham Linehan left the writing staff on that series. There are some genuinely good gags scattered here and there, but to be honest, I probably only laughed on average probably about twice per episode, which is more than some sitcoms I've watched. Definitely, but the laughs, the bits that I did laugh at, they were genuinely funny moments, But I just wish that it had made me laugh more. I could have done with 3 times that many at least per episode. I think that would have elevated to this to a more memorable status in the British psyche. As it happens, this is 10 years on. This is a largely forgotten show by it's only really remembered by sort of culty types like me. I don't think it was really that well known at the time. I didn't know that many people who were watching it. And I think the writers got a little overconfident, really. I think they assumed that the show was going to be an instant success. When you listen to them talk on the commentaries and in the making of, they're sort of very confidently talking about, when we do series 3, when we do the movie, and okay, guys, I won't hold my breath. I think when you're a little overconfident in your faith in something, that that can sometimes be the death nail in the coffin. This is the sort of show you watch because it's on, and not because you love it. It was always going to be a cult, but sadly it never turned out to be a classic. So there you go. That's my thoughts on Hyperdrive. It's worth checking out. It is good for some laughs. I mean, with 3 main players like this, how you can't really go wrong. But Red Dwarf or Hitchhikers, it ain't for me. So there you go. That's all for today, folks. Join me next time, and until then, this is me, Big Buddha, signing off, and I shall see you all out there in YouTube land.